Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is the Oracle of Zoraya Utranaya, and today I have my special friend with me, Kat, who is an amazing astrologer. I've known her for about a year and a half. We've met on a group called Quantum Plant Healing. And she has a really unique story on how she has dived into the realm of astrology. She has quite a unique relationship with all the planets, which she will tell you about. She does astrology at the quantum level and definitely has a unique way of interacting with these planets. So I will give the floor to Kat now. We will probably be discussing the themes that were surrounding the eclipses that we had in the spring, and then kind of looking into all of the themes and energies surrounding all of the planetary alignments that have happened since then, all the way into the summer, and how that can be utilized and how we can tap into all of this for our own personal development. So welcome, Kat. How are you today?
Hi, Jeanette. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm doing great, thank you. Our weather here is a little bit crappy, but yeah, the sun actually just popped out for the first time in a long time. But I'm doing great.
You're in British Columbia, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm on Vancouver Island.
Yeah, so you are quite cold right now, and we are having a major heat wave, so that's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
So why don't you let everybody know a little bit about yourself and how you got into astrology?
Yeah, well, my approach to astrology is very unique. I guess it's based on my own perspective of the universe. And as you said, I work with the planets at the frequency level, and I collaborate with them in the quantum space. And what that means is it's like in my internal universe. Like if you go like between all the cells and the atoms and everything, like beyond physical matter, like inside of you, that's where the quantum space is. And that's where all the potential is unlimited. Like you can create anything in there. So astrology is kind of like a game of illusion that I play with the planets, and I get to create my reality from the inside, and I get to learn about all the different parts of myself, and which are expressed through different themes, which the planets are also playing with a lot of these different themes, and then I integrate them back in. And so I kind of work with the planets with using the language of frequency. And I also use tuning forks, which are set to planetary frequencies as well. And as a
What are tuning forks?
tuning forks they're sound therapy. It's actually starting to get really popular here these days. It wasn't really very well known before. There's a gentleman a sound therapist who I learned from. His name is Dr. John Below, and he has designed tuning forks. Have been they're set to exact pitches, like to align with different things. It can be mostly they're set to the different chakras, which vibrate at different frequencies. And so you can expand your chakras and align your whole system. It brings your nervous system into harmony, and the two hemispheres of the brain into harmony, and just helps to move frequencies through the body that are trying to move. And so the sound kind of comes in and helps with the flow of that. And so the tuning forks that I have, some of them are set to the planetary frequencies and the asteroids. And so the planetary frequencies are all available within us. Like we can connect with the planets. The ones out there are just part of the illusion of our kind of hologrammatic universe. And so the planets out there, they vibrate at a certain frequency, and the tuning forks are designed they're kind of like quite a few octaves above, the planets. Like they vibrate very slowly, like the frequency is very low, but they're like exact octaves, which match the frequencies of the planets. So when you connect with the planets within you in your own internal universe and your own solar system, you the sound actually gives you, like, it kind of opens that channel to the planet. And
Very
so
interesting.
yeah, it's really cool. And what I've found, the planets actually literally help you locate the frequencies in your body and figure out which chakras are holding these frequencies associated with their themes. So it's really cool. And so I've learned most of my astrology from the planets themselves, really. Um, Although, it's good to have some kind of background information about the archetypes and stuff, but you don't need to be an expert on the planets to get to know them. You just start communicating with them. And like in the beginning, I was, before I knew that they were inside of me, I just talked to them. I wrote them letters, and I would just, like, I don't really interpret charts. I just draw them. I create them. I build them. And so as I connect this planet to this planet, like, I'm connecting the channels like inside of me. And
Hmm.
so I kind of, I'm connecting my own sacred geometry, which is in my chart, with the cosmos itself, by connecting with the planets, within me, and then the ones out there. It's kind of creates the whole oneness of everything. It's like a big galactic collaboration. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Did that
Yes,
answer
it
you?
does. You're like tapping into the web of the universe by creating it yourself, but because you are it as well, right?
Yeah, well, when I first heard this idea that we create our reality from the inside out, I was really deeply entrenched in victimhood at the time. So I really was like, seriously, you're telling me that I'm creating this? Like, I just was kind of offended that,
Yeah.
like, about this idea. Like, and now I understand that we actually really do, and I'm seeing it happen, and I'm actually shifting my external reality like so fast. Because when you connect with the planets at source level, like the versions of them that are not in the 3D, like, they're like multi-dimensional beings. So when you connect with them at the higher frequencies and you operate in the quantum space, there's no rules. Like, you make your own rules. Like, you're
Yeah.
not bound to 3D time and space. So you can create anything in there. So you connect with the planets in the very highest aspects, at the very highest frequencies of love, and you connect with them at that level. And the potential is like to create magic and miracles. So this is what I do every night. I'm like, I sit in my room and I draw my I kind of build. I've got my own chart, and I kind of create like a synastry with the transits and see where all the planets are in aspect to where they were when I was born, like how that's in my sacred geometry, and I can actually feel it like updating as
That's crazy.
I'm. Yeah, because you start transmuting frequencies, like the planets show you. Um, well, first of all, they help you understand the reality that you're creating, because the external world is a mirror of what we're creating inside. And so the planets just map that out in themes. And then in your own chart, you've got your own, like, illusion themes that your soul came to play with. And so when you understand that it's an illusion, you don't feel like you're kind of at the mercy of whatever's playing out and what the planets can do to you, because they're not pulling the strings. We are at source level. We're creating all of this from the inside. And so the planets are just reflecting what we are actually creating. They're not doing things to us, but it appears that way. And so, I
Kind of
mean,
like an archetypal dance, like
yeah,
like these different aspects. So we have like, and that's kind of reflected in the tarot, right? So we have like the fool's journey, going from the fool to the magician. We have the empress, we have the high priestess, we have the emperor, um, the chariot. These are all different archetypes that we can step into, and that we do we do exemplify at different points in our life. And then the planets reflect these different archetypes, like Saturn, like Mars, like Mercury. They all encompass different archetypes that are related to mythological gods and goddesses, right? And so these are different aspects of each and every one of us. We all have all these archetypes within us. And so
that's
these planets are dancing in the sky, and they kind of give us a clue as to what energies are available, or how we can lead the dance in, in a way, would you say?
Exactly. It's a way of exploring the self, like everything outside of us is an aspect of us. Like we're all kind of, everything outside of us is just a mirror of everything that we have inside. So everything that we want out there is available as a frequency inside of us. Like we're just energy, we're pure consciousness. And so when you start realizing that all you need to do to manifest something is connect with the frequency of it. And
Mhm.
so you just have to resonate with the thing that you want. And so when you want something, you want abundance, you want a thing, you desire something, you just have to think of who is that version who has that, like how do you, because we have all these limiting beliefs that are in the way of thinking that we can actually have it or get there or be that person or whatever. But it's just all the illusion. Like these limiting beliefs are not real. Like we kind of we buy into them at some point along the way, and the whole point of this journey is to kind of see the illusion in all these limiting beliefs, because these are the things that are attached to our emotions. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so the planets really help with mapping out the game that we have individually and collectively come here to play. And um, so the planets help us understand the reality that we're creating. They help us understand the frequencies that we hold within, and they help us connect with them and help them move. And the sound also helps with that. And I also charge my water with the sound and with the charts and stuff. And so then I get water in on it too. And then the planets help us, because they map out the themes, they help us identify the beliefs that are attached to all these feelings that we have in our subconscious. And so we can change our entire relationship with our past self and stop shaming ourselves for not knowing better, and for not being as conscious as we are right now. And so when we do that, we literally change our past. Like we change, and you can feel your own sacred geometry updating, like your own technology system and everything. It's like it starts to change really fast. So
That's kind of like working with like breaking the generational like blockages that you might have grown up with, the conditioning that you grow up with around money. I talk about this sometimes in my tarot videos where and I think this is can be related to Chiron as well, is that, with my I grew up quite poor, and my mom and dad had a very strict and rigid relationship with money, and that it was not something that we could ever have because of like our upbringing, and it was out of our control, and is just something that other people had. And I would just actually I bring my mother up quite a lot in my videos because she she bless her soul, she's a type of person that um cannot find the good in anything, and is always having like a cloud following her everywhere she goes. So if something gets fixed, something else breaks. She's always sick. And then she's like gets really upset over the smallest things. And it's because, and she even, I was like, the universe is not out to get you. Maybe you should like say three things in the morning that you are grateful for, that you're happy to have. Um, but that's like the wounds that she like that were perhaps even passed down to her, that were passed down. This the conditioning that you were talking about too, where of the illusion of our separateness, of like how we can control our own destiny type of thing, right?
yeah, and that when you have that, when you're really entrenched in victimhood like that, and I've been there, I've been like that in my past until I woke up to it, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah,
such
me
a
too.
like I didn't realize you don't until you wake up to your own victimhood, you can't do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
But when you are yeah, when you grow up in lack and scarcity and then you try to manifest from there, that's you know your external world is just going to keep reflecting what you believe. If you
Yeah.
believe powerless and you believe that this is never going to happen and you can't do this and you can't do that, then that's what your external world's going to reflect to you. But it's not showing you, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's just showing,
Yeah.
it's just literally just a mirror of what you believe to be true about reality and about who you are. And so these um like our whole external world is built from what we believe to be true about reality and about who we are. And so these beliefs that we have, like these limiting beliefs that we have, they are attached to the emotions that we hold in our subconscious. And so they affect every single part of our life, like the choices that we make, the way that we relate to other people, how, you know, our relationships, the way that we relate to ourselves, what we think we can achieve, what we think we deserve, and all this stuff. And it's just all, it's not true. And so we experience all of this unconsciously, and we judge our past selves. And but when we start to really examine these limiting beliefs, and this is where astrology is really helpful, when you really see, like, you ask yourself, why, you know, why do I think I can't do that? Everyone else can do it. Why do I think I can't do it? You know, I thought that I couldn't communicate for like my whole entire life. Like my throat chakra has been so blocked, and I've had so many fears around speaking and being understood. In fact, one of my aspects in my chart is getting lit up today. And so being on video and speaking and facing my fear of doing that is really huge for me today, because I'm having my Mercury is exactly on my Mercury right now with Venus.
Oh, wow.
And I have Mercury and Black Moon Lilith squaring Uranus in my chart, which is conjunct with Jupiter at 0 degrees of Libra. So this thing around, like, one of my limiting beliefs has been around not being able to communicate, because I felt like for my whole life nobody could understand me. I felt like I was from the wrong planet or something, or born in like the wrong time. And so I've grown up thinking that I can't communicate. And so I've struggled with that, with miscommunications. And then I've been trying to seek external, you know, being believed and being understood and all that. Like, that's one of my shadows that I've been working on. So when we can really examine these limiting beliefs that we have, they're gone. And so what happens then, the external world changes to show that we've changed and that we don't believe anymore. And so if we, for example, which is one issue that's kind of a lot of us are facing right now, with the South Node in Libra and the North Node in Aries. So the South Node in Libra is bringing up all of our like our unbalanced, distorted, you know, divine feminine energies, and was just square with Saturn recently, with Mercury was as well, and the Sun. And so these feelings of inadequacy and, you know, just this whole where we're looking externally for validation or seeking approval, or we just want to be accepted, or we want to feel seen or heard, or, you know, we feel like a nobody kind of thing. Or we feel powerless. That's the unbalanced feminine energies that we're all being shown. And so, you know, and then we've also got Chiron in Aries, which is bringing up all of our distorted masculine energies as well. And so I feel like what's happening right now, like what the astrology really seems to be indicating to me, well, there's lots of things it's indicating, but one of them is this interplay between the masculine and feminine within us. And I'd be interested to know if you're seeing this in your readings as well, because this, I feel like what's happening is the divine masculine and feminine are coming into sacred union and balance within us and harmony. But in order to do that, the external world has to show us where we're out of balance. And so this Chiron in Aries is bringing up, you know, the wound of the masculine, and the South Node in Libra is bringing up the wound of the divine feminine, so that we can see who, like, what we believe still that's not true, because we're divinity in human form. We're not any of these things. They're not true. And so we have to be shown what we believe that's false. It's the illusion. That's what I feel anyways.
Yeah, like I have been noticing in my readings, it has been coming up quite a bit. Like, So I read intuitively as well. So like it depends on the cards that are surrounding different cards too. So obviously with the lovers and the snake or anything that involves a snake, or sometimes if I have a picture of a snake and then like the ace of swords or something with like a straight line, that indicates the kundalini. So a lot of messages coming through about integration of the Shakti and Shiva, like and the firing up of the kundalini serpent, moving up from the root chakra, going and meeting their the divine counterpart in the crown chakra. So you know, definitely needing to embody these archetypes within us that both serve a purpose. So even like the dichotomy or the duality of shadow and light as well, right? So it's like a similar duality of the feminine and the masculine, but even in my readings too, it's coming up of like doing your shadow work and needing to go within and needing to embrace and love your shadow sides. And I guess that's going into your unconscious and the subconscious as well, right? Because that is where the shadows lie. And a really nice metaphor I heard about that was and that this can be applied to the feminine and masculine, or the light and the dark too, is that you know, everyone always talks about, and I think we can get into Kali here a little bit after, is that, you know, like I'm not in agreement with all of this constant love and light, toxic positivity, like paradigm that a lot of spiritual people talk about, because if you only feed the white wolf that lives within you, you're starving the dark wolf. And when the dark wolf gets starved, he can get resentful and he can get angry and he can come out at inappropriate times for food, right? So we need to be able to feed both of them so that they're both feeling like they're being nurtured and they're both being taken care of and they're both being heard. And we need to be able to understand where our darkness comes from and where our shadow, or where our masculine comes from, or where our femininity comes from. Because even if I'm a woman, I still have a divine masculine within me, and even with if a man has his divine feminine. And so we need to be able to understand that so we can tap into these archetypes when we need it. There are times when like everyone should be able to understand how dangerous they could be, or when the time comes to protect themselves, or what you like to step into your inner warrior, step into your emperor mode. And there are times where you should be more compassionate and more intuitive and be more nurturing, and we should be able to ebb and flow within these spectrums, you know what I mean? So it's definitely coming out, and not only in like the divine masculine and feminine, but just in like duality's sake.
Yeah. I think that part of that duality as well is embracing the human experience, because a lot of people who are on this spiritual path right now are almost like pushing away the human and trying to become a light body, or trying to kind of separate from 3D reality. But that's why we're here. We're here to experience the duality of being both human and source. And our point of power is right in between those two. And so if we're trying to push away the ego, I mean, the whole reason, like we can't exist in the 3D, like 3D reality is made from, I mean, it's based on the illusion of separation and lack and limitation. And we have to believe that we're lacking something. So we need to be able to grow and evolve and survive. And so we need these fears, like they help us survive. But when we're in our balanced divine masculine energy, which to me is like our 3D human kind of container that contains this divine feminine energy to flow through. It's like our container. It's our sovereign 3D human physical self. And so when we feel like we've got our own back, like we feel like our masculine has our back, then we feel safe. And so the feminine and the masculine kind of work together. You know, one experiences the lack, but knows that there's source in human form at the same time, that experiences the lack, which generates a desire, which allows the feminine to create. That's kind of how I see the masculine and the feminine
That's
working.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how you said as well, like it is the fears and like our emotions, like we're here on the 3D realm and we are human, and so we do experience all emotions. And so all of emotions, there are no good emotions and there are no bad emotions. They all serve a purpose. And without the jealousy, without the hurt, without the hate, without the fear, we would die, because these are the things that keep us alive. If we lived in this 3D realm and we're all just happy and naive all the time, we would get hit by a car, we would get robbed, we would get walked down that alley, we would not learn from our lessons. And so it is these things, it is like we feel these emotions because it teaches us something about the situation, and then we hopefully learn from these things moving forward so we don't have to feel them again. And I always utilize, I'm reading Lord of the Rings right now, for the first time. I'm almost finished the Two Towers now, and I utilize this analogy in my readings a lot. It's the fool's journey. Like we are the hero on the epic adventure, right? And so these challenges in our lives that we go through, and like which is exemplified in the major arcana through the different archetypes, and there are all different lessons that we must go through until we reach the world card, and then we start all over again in a new cycle and a new chapter. So I always say, like, the book is 3 novels long, and it could have been just one page. It could have, like, um Frodo is this really naive and innocent hobbit who's never went outside of his village before, never experienced the outside world, never been in danger, never experienced a bad emotion. And so he was given this big burden upon his shoulders that he had to get rid of this ring. And to make the story short, Gandalf could have just got his hawk friend, and the hawk could have flew him to Mordor, and it would have been done in one page. But no, Frodo had to go through all these different adventures and learn about his character, go through all these tough times and tribulations and challenges, and it really showcased to him what he was capable of. And we would not have access to those sides of ourselves. At times he has to be like darker, the dark aspect of his personality comes out, and like especially when he puts the ring on. And then sometimes he's like too trusting, and so these are all aspects of ourselves that we would not necessarily get to know. It wouldn't necessarily have been mirrored to us, to show to us, if we don't go through these challenges. And that is the whole beauty of life, is that once you see that each challenge is an opportunity for you to look at yourself and to see how you can become better. And yes, I try. I live this, and I try to take my own advice. So like, it's not something I just say, and it is annoying when things, but the more quicker you realize that things are a lesson, and that you can see the diamond in the rough out of any situation, the quicker you can move through it. And it's not to say like you should just pretend that it doesn't bother you, or like to move through it, because you need to be able to honor your emotions and honor the way that you feel. But knowing that if you can see the lesson that lies underneath and how it is helping you elevate, um, you can move through the tough emotions a lot quicker. So sorry, I got off rampant.
Yeah. And it's I mean, that the whole reason that we're here is because it's a game. Like,
Yeah.
it's not kind of face adversity and just to grow us. So it's like we're here for fun, like to pretend that we're not source. And so we have to believe the simulation, because it has to feel real, because otherwise we won't buy into the beliefs and we won't have the growth. Like, it doesn't work if we don't believe it. Like, we have to believe that we're separate. Like, it's kind of like what you were describing, like with Frodo and everything. It's like the hero's journey, which is like,
Yeah.
Chiron in Aries is just really bringing all that up too. But we're I mean, with Chiron in Aries, it's like, we just had, like, it was conjunct with like the eclipse, you know. So I mean, it's really huge. Like Chiron is just really like it's been reflecting our deepest wounds. Like Chiron is, it's, you know, we have to learn to create the medicine that we didn't get. You know, we have to find the frequency within us. And so we go looking for it out there, you know, because we think that it's out there, but it's not. It's all in here in the end. And then when we, you know, we kind of come full circle, we come back to ourselves. And we realize that the universe wasn't reflecting our worth or our limitations. It was just an illusion. It wasn't that we were unlovable. It was just reflecting the frequencies that we bought into. And then when you look at the entire process of our life, like from when we're born, like, I mean, as mammals, we're designed to separate at birth. Like that's how we buy the illusion that we're separate. Like we literally come from the womb into our new life, and we take our first breath and we're separated from our mothers, and we're pushed into survival straight away. So, you know, we live in a society that glorifies separation and independence and all these things. And so, you know, we're told that it's, you know, you're going to spoil your baby if you pick it up too much, and you have to let your baby fall asleep on their own and cry. And like, so we learn that, you know, we get programmed right away, you know. And so Chiron just it forces us to go, you know, deep inside to find the thing that we're looking for out there, because it gets so loud that we realize that we it gets louder and louder until we see the illusion in it. And so but the healing journey is a never ending. It's like,
Yeah.
evolution never stops, right? So
Well, that's like with the fool's journey through the major arcana, right? Like once you
yeah,
reach the world card, it's not the end of the story. You start all over again in a new cycle, right? So then you go through a new paradigm and a new version of yourself, but it's now you're in a different chapter of the Lord of the
yeah,
Rings.
totally. And I love that we have we've had all this solar energy recently, like with the solar flares and everything, but we've had all these Kazimis, and
Yeah.
just been you know, the Jupiter Kazimi, the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. We've had all this super like solar power, and I feel like that's also part of us stepping into our masculine energy, because, you know, the divine masculine lives in the root chakra and the solar plexus, like quite a lot. So quite a lot, that's not, you know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
it lives, the divine masculine lives in the lower chakras, but it also lives in the heart. It lives everywhere, but it's like the solar plexus is related to like our core identity. It's like you know, not, I don't mean like our fixed identity that we think we have in the 3D world, because like we can choose who we are in any given moment. These are just like personality kind of identities that we've created, but who we truly are is source in human form. And so when you know who you are like all the time, and you honor that, and you know that you have your own back, and you're in that masculine energy, I think that we can just and then also realize that power is not something external, it's something that we have within us. Then I think that the masculine just becomes a real power for us. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yes. Well,
Yeah,
the sun is a Leo, is Leo, right? And so Leo is all about the heart and being his or her individual, like it's like about the individual, like being your authentic self type of thing, right? Would
yeah,
you
well,
agree
it's
with that?
the solar plexus for me, it's kind of like it's the core of it's the core of who, it's like the sun in the middle of the solar system with
Yeah.
everything around it. It's kind of like the, you know, the dot in the center of the circle, like the glyph for the
Yep.
sun. So our core and our solar plexus is it's where we if we can just always remember who we are, and we can really be anchored in our root, we can just really feel like our divine masculine has our back, and we can know that we have that power. I think that we can. I remember, you remember Zachariah, the ascended master.
Yep.
Zachariah, he once told us, I think it was actually in August, it was on the Lion's Gate, it was in the Leo season, and he, in 2022, and he told us that we've got this download now. For the last 2 years, we've had this creative power kind of downloaded into our solar plexus. And he said that it's been fully linked up with the third eye, and with the Earth star, and with the Sirius star, and the Orion star, and all of our realities and the galaxies and everything. And he said that it's kind of dormant until we activate it. And so I feel like the sun, like when we connect with the frequency of the sun, like within us, I mean, it's easier for us to connect with the sun and the moon because we see them. So when we really connect with the sun inside of us, I think that we can really activate this dormant power that we've just never even tapped into. So that's the way I see the sun, and in relation to our solar plexus. And so on the solstice, that would be, the chart actually has a lot of indication about like taking like this divine masculine action. I was just looking at the chart this morning. Mars has some really beautiful aspects, Mars in Taurus. And before I get into looking into the astrology, did you want to say anything, or
No, I think you've been quite eloquent in how you describe everything. So keep going.
So I forgot what your question was. I was talking for so long. Sorry. Your original question, you were asking about the sun and Leo. What was your actual question? Just want to make sure I answered you.
I think it was more of a statement of just like I was relating it to like the tarot. And so the archetype of the sun is associated with Leo, and it's all about like being authentic, stepping into your true
Yeah.
self. And I'll bounce off of just one thing before you get into the astrology, about another theme that has been coming up quite a bit, is, which I can tie into the divine masculine of having your own back, is starting to become as self-reliant as you can possibly can, and not having to rely on any sort of external, be it people, a person, like even a job, or like the stores, or even the government, right? So we're like, it's like the Nine of Pentacles type of energy of where you can hone in on your skills and focus on your immediate environment more, and focus on becoming more self-sufficient and self-reliant. Maybe like, so that's having your own back, like kind of thing, right? Being able to be your own, what is it, when men are the sole provide, like you can provide for yourself, right? And so knowing that no matter what happens, you can become resourceful. Like that's the queen of pentacles. She is resourceful, and she can pivot on a dime. If something happens, she has plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and she can utilize one skill and apply it to something else to get her ends met, or to get her needs met, or whatever it's
Yeah.
called. So and needing to be flexible. And another thing I'll bounce off of like that is the King of Pentacles, who is quite self-sufficient, but a theme that comes up a lot with him is that he can be quite set in his ways on how he maintains or obtains his wealth. So one thing that's been coming up quite a bit is with the Nine of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles, being resourceful, being self-reliant, but you need to be flexible and not rigid and thinking more outside of the box, because the times are changing and we need to adapt with them on how we can be self-reliant, and because it's going to look different. So we have to start paying attention and start thinking outside the box into what resourcefulness means and what does being self-reliant mean, and
Mhm.
um, because of changing times. So maybe you can bounce off of that into the astrology.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love everything that you said. Um, it's and I think that for me, like Mars in Taurus, it's just about
Mm,
creating that feeling that that you can govern your own life, you know, that
yeah,
you've got governorship of your own life. Like you can, you know, you can resource yourself in any given moment. Like you have this confidence that you know that, you know, that lack and scarcity is an illusion, and that you're just being shown where you still believe it. And so and Mars in Taurus is like building as well, and it's like putting like all this crazy stuff that we've just gone through with this whole eclipse thing. Now it's like getting grounded and kind of stable and integrating all the things that you've learned into your life and using them as tools to kind of move forward. And so um and then just the whole idea of being, you know, being independent and all that is associated with Mars, and you know, and about um, it's about knowing that you're separate, but that you're it's about knowing about separation and oneness, and being, you know, you're not constantly trying to seek anything outside of yourself,
yeah,
because you know that everything
you are
is you.
everything.
Yeah. And so yeah, Saturn is just, because Saturn, we just had Saturn square with Venus, and for me that brought up a lot of I was noticing those feelings of, you know, lack and scarcity, and, you know, like feeling that lack and limitation, and that in that sense of inadequacy, and feeling like you can't provide for yourself, and that you're unworthy, and all that kind of stuff as well with Venus. And I think it was also trining the South Node as well. So that was really helping um, to show that, and also within relationship. So
Yeah, it's funny because a recent um, a recent video I made, I think it was for Sagittarius, Saturn popped up like for me, like it just like I had the world card and I forgot like while I was reading it that Saturn was associated with it, and I was just like, I feel like you're like you're something's like it's like something's testing you to see if you've learned like if you really like have stepped into that new paradigm of what you, or like, you know what I mean? Like, and so there's some resistance coming in that's going to be like testing your resolve, and like you need to just push through it. And then I was like, oh wait, because I was like, you know, that because I think Saturn's like in the astrology a lot this week. And then I was like, oh wait, the world card is Saturn too. So and then yeah, like he came up in like quite a, like there's like resistance to but you have to push through it. Like based on
totally.
what I learned. So it was really weird.
Saturn's like really slowing down, I believe. I'm not sure of the exact date, but it's around now that Saturn turns retrograde. And Saturn, let's see what, oh, Saturn is going to be kind of squaring the moon on the solstice, and making a trine aspect with Pallas Athena. So for me, um, Saturn in Pisces is, it's almost like, you know, like how when you go into the bottom of the ocean, there's like, imagine like an upside down mountain. So it's like, so Saturn in Pisces for me, it's like the upside down mountain. It's like the bottom of the ocean. It's like the container for the ocean. So it's like it's like holding the emotional body. And so in the ocean, it's holding the emotional body of Mother Earth. But like for us, it's like it's holding our own, it's like that sense, that container that I was talking about, holding the emotional. And so that feeling that we have our own back. But Saturn is also, it's about the embodiment of the father, and that, you know, which is the divine masculine, that inner parent, that inner authority, that you know, how do we handle practicality and all that kind of thing? How do we relate to our past and our past versions of self? Like, are we critical of ourselves, you know, in the past? And how for me, when I'm working with Saturn, what Saturn shows me where I'm believing the illusion of lack and limitation and scarcity and isolation and separation, and where I feel like I can't expand. Like right now, I have Mars is, I think, is exactly on my Saturn, and so it's just, yeah, it's this feeling of wanting to push forward, and like if it's not coming, if it's coming from fear or any kind of illusion rather than on the highest frequency, based on the highest frequencies of love, then you'll feel this resistance, like this block. And so that's with Saturn and Mars, that can it's like having your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. And so, and another thing with Saturn as well, which I think has been really reflected in the astrology, is just this illusion of hierarchical, these hierarchical systems that we have, like in government, of that this punishment reward system that we have in society. It's like the schools are rife with that, like rewarding kids and punishing. And it's like this, it's like the shadow of our, of our society, because it's based on extrinsic reward instead of intrinsic work of the soul, which is what Saturn is trying to guide us into. And like through Saturn and through Capricorn, like we learn that evolution happens through constant pressure, like the diamonds and the crystals on the ground, like that they get squeezed and pressured for like millions of years. And that's, we're forming these diamonds within us, like with this pressure. And so when we do the work of the soul, instead of doing things to get external approval or all this kind of, crap that we do to, to feel loved and accepted, and all this limiting beliefs that we have, Saturn will just, it feels like Saturn's amplifying those things and kind of reinforcing, our beliefs, but it's just a mirror. And when you realize
like,
that,
are you looking inner? You have to like, it's like, don't
yeah,
try to control out there. You need to like focus here.
yeah, it's showing us when we're out there instead of in here.
Yeah.
And we're to change our reality by changing the mirror. You can't change the mirror. You have to change the thing that's reflecting in the mirror. So that that's some of some of Saturn's very complex, but that's kind of the gist of what I feel like Saturn is kind of representing right now. And when Saturn goes retrograde, I feel like we're going to start seeing that the 3D reality is the dream, like, Pisces, and with Neptune in the very final minutes of Pisces and then going to go retrograde. I think that's also it's like everything gets flipped, with all these, like, Neptune is squaring the sun, like right now, like just as, right up until like the minute before the solstice, like Neptune is squaring the sun, and still kind of is squaring Venus and Mercury right now, and is opposing Shiva and Black Moon Lilith. And so there's a Shakti Shiva. There's so much divine masculine feminine stuff going in the astrology. I know I'm probably like looking for it, and I find it because that's kind of how I work with the frequencies, but it's really playing out big time, especially with Mars and Venus right now, and Black Moon and Goddess Kali in the astrology. She's opposing Mars right now, Goddess Kali. So does that make sense, what I was saying about Saturn?
Yeah.
So when you work with the planets at the frequency level, then you get to see the illusions and you can flip everything and transmute frequencies. So it's not that Saturn's doing this to us. It's that we believe that this is, we believe in the illusion.
The resistance is coming from within us. It's not coming from Saturn.
Yeah, it's self-imposed.
Saturn is exposing the resistance that we have within ourselves.
Totally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we get more into, well, we've been talking a little bit about the astrology, but what did you where did you want to go now?
Well, there's so much astrology. It's hard to know where to really talk. I don't really want to just analyze a chart or anything. I just was going to just mention some of the aspects for the solstice chart that I feel are interesting. I find it interesting that Mercury and the Sun they were like, there was a Mercury cazimi on the last solstice, and then a new moon right after it, and then so it's kind of like similar here, like Mercury and the Sun. They're going to be quite close on the solstice. They're kind of Mercury's just crossed the Sun and will be at 7 degrees of Cancer by then, but Venus is still kind of conjunct with the Sun on the solstice. So yeah, one thing that I noticed that was kind of interesting was this. I've already just mentioned this T-square that's happening with, we've got Neptune opposite to Shiva and Black Moon Lilith, and they are making a T-square with the Sun as the Sun crosses into Cancer. And so I feel like that is quite significant because with Neptune kind of flipping things, and with Shiva and Black Moon Lilith, and with Goddess Kali opposite Mars, it's like this masculine, feminine energies that are unbalanced are really coming up. And I think that Neptune, and it's interesting as well that Neptune, both Neptune and Shiva both have a trident.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I feel like this T-square is really potent, especially if you think about what I was mentioning about the solar plexus with the Sun, and the Sun moving into Cancer is a very different feel to Gemini, and it's very the Sun is actually forming a beautiful, like I work with 7-pointed stars and 5-pointed stars and stuff, but I noticed that it's creating the 7-pointed star angle is like 51.43 degrees or something between the Sun and Mars on the solstice, while Mars is creating this 5-pointed star. It's called a golden yard. When you have a planet, you know what a yard is, right? Where you have,
No, I don't. What is it?
so it's an aspect. It's not often talked about in astrology, but because it's a minor aspect, considered a minor aspect, but it's a 150-degree aspect between 2 planets, and then another 2 planets, so it's kind of forming like an arrow.
Okay, is that the finger of God?
Yeah, the finger of God. And so when instead of 150 degrees, if you go to 144 degrees, it's like a slightly wider yard. It's called a golden, Rick Levine calls it a golden yard. And Mars is at the pointy end of a golden yard with the moon and with Shiva on the solstice too. So I think that's kind of cool, especially since Mars is opposing Goddess Kali, so she's kind of in the middle of the yard, the golden yard.
So what, like, archetypically, or I don't know if that's a word, but
Yeah.
so Shiva's the destroyer, right?
Yeah, Shiva's the destroyer, and so is Goddess Kali. Like,
Yeah.
she's his part. So
And what else is aspecting in this yard as well? The Sun and
so there's Mars, the moon, and Shiva. And the Shiva is only 2 degrees away from Black Moon Lilith at the final degree of Virgo. And so it feels like there's these hard aspects with Mars, because Mars is also squaring Eros, and there's these magical kind of aspects. There's Mars and the moon, and then Mars and Mercury is forming a sextile, and Mars and the Sun is forming the septile. And so there's this magical, unlimited creative potential, like if you consciously work with Mars internally and really connect with your divine masculine element. And I think that you can create magic with that. But for me, look, this chart overall represents, because it's a cardinal sign, it's about taking divine masculine action, and being anchored into the root chakra and aligned with the solar plexus, and just knowing who you are and knowing that you have your own back and activating. You don't have to get your power from anywhere. You just have to allow it to flow and just
Yeah.
trust to have it. And then Cancer is a very protective, kind of nurturing, compassionate sign, to take that divine masculine action. Although the sun is making a funky kind of aspect with the moon, it's like it's not quite opposite. It's kind of like half a sign over, so it's like 165 degrees with the moon. So it's kind of a tricky. It's called a quindicili, and it can be a little bit obsessive, kind of compulsive, kind of emotional with the moon and the sun. I find that really kind of interesting, that and just with the shadow side of Cancer, and with Venus being there too, it could bring up like the shadow elements of, like, you know, like codependence and kind of being clingy, like Cancer can be
So the
sometimes.
opposite side of
Yeah.
the
So you want to be good tenacious,
having your back, having your own back is being too reliant on others.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's really cool, like with the Cancer, with the aspect of Cancer, because with like all of the Shiva and Aries and Kali archetype is like, so you know of your potential to be dangerous and to step into your warrior self if the occurrence happened where you would have your own back. And knowing that you have everything, like with the Cancer having its shell on its own back, like knowing that you are all you ever need because you have
mhm,
everything on within you on your back. Like you have your own house on your own back. Like you don't need
yeah,
anything else, right? That's like the epitome of being self-reliant is like, and like it's like a strong external, like, and that's like the divine masculine feminine too, is like you have a hard external shell, but you're soft on the inside, like the
yeah,
masculine and the feminine type of thing, right? So you have a hard back, you're protecting yourself, but you're also the nurturing aspect of the Cancer, right? And so
yeah.
very cool.
It's very it can be very defensive, Cancer. It's, you know, and so I know that like when Mars goes through Cancer, sometimes it can be very defensive and kind of overprotective. But when you know that, you know, home, like, it's a frequency within you, it's not something out there, you know. I spent my whole life looking for a home, like living in different countries around the world, trying to find where I belong. And it, you know, took me all this time to realize that it's a frequency. Home is a frequency, it's a feeling, it's a state of being that you can access anytime. And so, yeah, like carrying your shell around, like you know, we don't have to go looking out there for a home. It's a state of being. So yeah. So
I think something else that's coming to mind too with this is like, because we were talking about the sun, because it's the solstice too, is like being because you have your home on your back, and like the sun will shine a light on your good qualities and your bad quality, or like quote unquote bad qualities. So being comfortable being by yourself too, right? And that comes across with like the codependability too, right? Like a lot of people, especially with this Venus, maybe this Venus thing, it's like a lot of people, like there are some people, I'm not judging, but that have never been by themselves in their life,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
They like ever since they were teenagers, they've been in a relationship, and then they have another one lined up before the other one ends, or like they just go to someone else and they don't, so like maybe with the sun and like you in being self-reliant, and with the crab having its home on the back, it's kind of like the hermit crab, like the hermit. Like can you be comfortable in your own company by yourself? And then that's stepping into your true, like knowing, like because the sun will start make the shadows become apparent, right? So um a lot of people don't like the shadow work too, and that's why, because it exposes certain things about them that they have to face, right? And so it makes them
yeah,
uncomfortable. So sitting by yourself and That's what well, when we went through the pandemic, I had just left my boyfriend. We are back together now, but um, I had lived on my own, and it was quite isolating considering we couldn't go anywhere and do anything, because so there was a lot of time reflecting, and that was like the dark night of the soul, where you have to sit and analyze yourself and face your shadows and what your motivations are. And sometimes it's not comfortable, but the more you can do that, that is when that's when your divine masculine, divine feminine can truly be integrated, because then you know that you've witnessed the darker sides and the lighter sides, and you can be more of a that step into the divine masculine and have your own back when you know when you've seen yourself. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's relationships are that's that's relationships are like our biggest evolutionary catalyst. Like we can't really evolve without them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We form attachments as soon as we're born, and because we have to survive, and then we kind of we go out there into the world and explore and learn about ourselves out there. And but when we forget who we are and we don't come back to our center and remember where we came from in the beginning, then we end up staying out there, and we think that that these codependent energies that you're talking about, like they're the South Node in Libra has been bringing a lot of that up. And also Black Moon Lilith keeps popping into Libra and was conjunct with the South Node on, I think, on the Venus Cazimi. And so yeah, we've been, all of us, being shown like where we still have these unbalanced feminine energies. And we think that other people make us feel a certain way, but they're not. They're just reflecting how we feel about ourselves, and like they're showing us our relationship with ourselves. That's what it's about. But Venus helps us to see how we're kind of building bridges to others, and like it's all about our resonance and how we establish and maintain these connections to survive. I mean, Venus is about lots of other things, love and desire and creation and abundance and lots of things too. But the South Node in Libra is showing us where we're seeking this external love and acceptance, and shows us where we don't realize we're hiding parts of ourselves because we feel like they're not worthy to be seen, or we put a mask on and pretend that we're something that we're not, or we all do it unconsciously. But so I feel like the South Node is really showing us where we're all doing it, and trying to get us out of this victimhood that we've been entrenched in for so long, and ultimately kind of come into that vibration point, that harmony point in the center. So we're out, we can live in the duality and not get kind of buffeted around by it, but find, that's kind of what I feel like this Libra, and that's probably going to really come highlighted in September and October, when we have the eclipses and Pluto goes back into Capricorn. Oh my gosh, we could talk about this all day. I know that we got to keep an eye on the time. So I was just wondering if, was there any like planets or anything that you wanted to ask about, or did you have any other things that you wanted to talk about? I've kind of been talking the whole time.
Well, no, I think we've both been interjecting. I feel I had a little rant or two, I think. So yeah, we talked about the eclipse. We talked about the eclipses. So that was like the starting of this whole powerful energy coming in for the year. And then the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is about turning things upside, like Uranus is turning things upside down. Jupiter is going to be expanding it. Our reality is kind of going to be, I think, like more truths will be coming out. So we also had the stellium that we happened in Gemini. Did we talk about that, or have we touched base about that, or is that kind of in the past now? That's in the past now, correct?
Well, the Sun and Mercury and Venus
Yeah.
they were all moving through Gemini, and they all crossed Jupiter. And I think Mercury and Jupiter kind of moved in at the same time into Gemini, and that's really shifted the vibe. I feel like because Jupiter, wherever Jupiter goes, it really expands things, and I feel like it's just indicating like a really huge expansion in consciousness in general. But the thing is with Jupiter and Gemini is that it can get really like it can amplify so much. Like I struggle sometimes because I'm ruled by Jupiter with my Sagittarius ascendant, and it can really amplify things so much that you just can't stop with the questions and the expansions and seeking answers. And so it's you got to kind of remember what it is that you're wanting to, what you're looking for, because you can end up getting lost down a million rabbit holes. But ultimately I love Jupiter in Gemini because it's just really expansive in terms of consciousness, and I'm still feeling the effects of that Jupiter Uranus conjunction that we just
a good like I'm having a good little analogy or good like kind of vision in my head to describe this too, because Mercury is the messenger of the gods, but he's also a psychopomp where he like transfers people from the 3D realm to like Hades or like to the afterlife, right? He's like the guide. And so the Hades can be considered, or like the underworld is like our subconscious. So we can be, and Mercury's like the god of the communication, and like where Jupiter's expanding our ability to dive and communicate perhaps with our unconscious and our subconscious. And now with Neptune, I'm gonna just jump to Neptune that's coming up on the full moon. So Neptune will be, I think a lot of us are perhaps either we're not aware of it happening, depending on where we are in our trajectory of like elevation in our consciousness, in our journey. So maybe some people are starting off to like see that they're tapping into different extrasensory abilities perhaps, so they might be just noticing things like differently, or noticing synchronicities, or their dreams might be starting to get more vivid, or those are more far along, like things might be getting more intense. Like I think there's just the connection between our 3D person and our like subconscious is like the Mercury is, and with Jupiter like expanding that is like it's like exponentially swifter like synapses. Like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. And Jupiter is being ruled by Mercury at the moment in Gemini. When I say ruled, like I don't mean I'm just talking in terms of Mercury rules, is the ruler of Gemini. So Jupiter and Gemini working with Mercury after they just had this conjunction. I think it was like on 0 degrees as well. And you were talking about Mercury going into the underworld. Like Mercury connects and weaves everything kind of together, like the inside world and the outside world, and all the dualities, the masculine, the feminine, the positive, the negative. And for me, like Mercury can just really help us interpret it, like from when we're born, like Mercury helps us interpret and kind of map out our environment, like just as we move through it. And so it's like helps us to make sense of what we're perceiving. And
kind of like the ego in a sense, right?
Well, the things in our world don't have inbuilt meaning. Like we give the meaning, like we choose the meanings, we give the meanings based on whatever our individual perceptions are. And so as babies, like our senses are out there, like feeling and interpreting the environment. And so our whole entire reality is built on what we believe to be true. And so we've got the lower mind and the higher mind of Jupiter kind of working together, I feel, to kind of, help us to exist kind of in the duality of both, being both human and source, and expanding that. Because Mercury is, it's connected to our mind, like our thought matter. It's not really in our head. It's, it's in our thought matter and our thinking processes and our mindset. how we communicate, how we interact with the world. It's like every single thought that we have, though, has like a vibrational level, like of density.
Yeah.
And so we reinforce this density with our own thoughts and beliefs. Like we repeat these thoughts over and over and over, and they get reinforced as reality. And so then, and we have these emotions attached to them. So Mercury in Cancer can kind of help us to kind of wade through that and just see what's going on, and see how the thoughts are limited. The limiting thoughts are linked with the emotions. And just so that we can see the reality that we're creating, because the universe will just bring to us whatever we are thinking, whatever we're creating with our thoughts. So when we start to notice, I think with Mercury in Cancer, when we start to notice how our thoughts make us feel, then we can start transforming them. So, I mean, we can't just transmute them from like feeling like, I'm really rubbish at this, I'm really crap at this, to feeling like you're brilliant at this. Like you just have to kind of have something believable for a new truth. Like I'm getting better at this, I'm getting actually really good at this now. We have to be realistic about the leaps that we're going to take in terms of our beliefs. Otherwise our bodies just it'll reject it as a truth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Mercury is the ruler of Gemini and of Virgo. So Gemini is more the storyteller, kind of socializer, and Virgo is more of the detail oriented, service oriented kind of stuff. So
And so how is Neptune at the end of Pisces going to impact all of this on the full moon, the day after the solstice?
yeah, is that when Neptune goes retrograde? Or I'm not sure when Neptune goes retrograde, but
That's just I'm not sure if it's going retrograde. I just know that it's at the anaretic degree of Pisces, I believe.
yeah, and I will be going retrograde soon. So Neptune for me is it's about the unconscious, the subconscious. It's like all the things that we're not aware of, all the unacknowledged needs and desires that we unconsciously project out into our 3D reality. So we're kind of generating our own external reality based on these unconscious and needs and desires and beliefs that we have. So it's connected. Neptune's connected with the ocean, the lord of the ocean, and for me, the oceans and the rivers and all the liquids on Mother Earth are like Mother Earth's emotional body. And so we have, so her water moves through each and every one of us, like in all of our lives and realities and everything. So the water interconnects, that's for me represents the oneness of Neptune. It's like the water, how it interconnects all of us. We drink it and it goes through us, and then it goes back into the rivers, and it contains the memory of all of our existence on our planet.
And it holds emotion too, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so if you think of the water as being our emotional body, and our emotions are like, they're kind of like the bridge between the subconscious and the conscious. Our emotions, they kind of come up from, not up, but you know what I mean? They come from the subconscious, and they manifest and they come out. So they kind of bridge us to our soul. And I feel a real connection with the third eye with Neptune, because when the Neptune transited over my north node, and with Jupiter, like Jupiter and Neptune were conjunct on my north node, that's when my third eye just really expanded, and I was kind of really connected with my soul, and the third eye just kind of showed me what was going on. So Neptune connects us with so creativity, like our imagination, is how we create our reality. Like we have to it's kind of our gateway to all our multidimensional self, the imagination, because we imagine something, how we want to feel. We imagine the reality that we want to create. Like we have to have an imagination in order to create. And so I feel like Neptune has really is really like in that final minutes of Pisces. I feel like there's like an urgency to that that's really expansive for all of these things. A lot of people are having wild dreams and seeing a lot of like getting to transmute frequencies in their dreams, and there's a lot of kind of overlap into the 3D with the dream world right now. The Neptune, everyone says, oh, Neptune wants to just dissolve things, but it's just for me, it's just about reminding me of like just really feeling that oneness with everything, and it just really connects me with my soul. That's just my experience with Neptune. I've had kind of a wild ride with Neptune because it's gone back and forth. It's been going back and forth close to my North Node here again and trining my Neptune. So it's pretty cool.
Going over the anaretic degree of Pisces, so that is considered, the anaretic degree is usually considered to be like the darker aspect. Is that correct, of like the sign, or like
no, I feel like it's like being in the birth canal of the new life, and where you have to kind of let go of your old life, like you can't take anything with you, coming out of the womb into like essentially into a new life. It's like the ascendant, like when you go through the 12th house and you go into the ascendant, that's like kind of like a rebirth kind of thing. Okay. It's a little like that last degree. It's like, yeah, it's like we're in the birth canal.
Is it like amplified, like things are amplified a little bit? Because that's what I've heard some astrologers say, that it's like things can get a little bit more intense, like all of the aspects of that sign can be intensified at that point. Is it because like the birth canal is like narrowing out, and then it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
so with Neptune being at the anaretic degree of Pisces, would it be like things that are like, because Pisces can be dreamy and imaginative and psychic kind of stuff, and then Neptune, with the dissolving, I know you don't really, but so perhaps like just are the blurred lines of reality in our
yeah,
subconscious, and like other realities, and the meshing between the two, perhaps, or how would you describe that?
well, it's kind of like the oneness aspect, but it's also like letting go of the old life.
Yes.
Because it's kind of like, like in your tarot, like where you've got the fool and he doesn't have anything. He's just carrying that little swag bag on a stick. And so you literally come in to your new life with nothing, like you start, it's like you're starting anew. And so it's like, but it's also, it's in a really good aspect with Pluto and with Sedna right now, Neptune. And so, Pluto and Neptune have kind of been in this ongoing kind of sextile, like 60-degree aspect on and off. And that when Pluto moves back into Capricorn, it'll be a different feel to what it is now, like in Aquarius. Speaking of Pluto, I'm just wondering what your experience, how you felt since Pluto has been in Aquarius, because we talked about that last time, and just about how different it felt last time we talked. I was just wondering if you're noticing anything energetically for yourself.
When was that? When was it when the Pluto was going in? Was it in Capricorn moving into Aquarius?
Yeah, it moved, actually. Pluto and the Sun moved into Aquarius together. I think it was like
in January.
February 20th or something like that. It was they kind of moved in as we went into Aquarius season. And I just I just have a really like different like I've just noticed like a real different feel to like when Pluto was in
Well,
Capricorn.
yeah, well, now that I have a date, like kind of coincide, like to remind me where I was at that time. That was that was so looking at Capricorn being more of like top-down authoritarian control over your life, right? So for me, I guess that could signify my employment situation and relying on other, like a boss or a company or something to give me a job. And with Pluto being the planet of birth, like death and destruction and rebirth, um, like the phoenix kind of, um, it moved now into Aquarius where it's more people oriented and more grassroots kind of structure. I opened up my own business in February. So I had been laid off. It's something I share with my channel a lot. I was laid off twice in the last 2 years. Really hard for me to find a job in my field. I work with individuals with autism and special needs. So I got
Yeah.
laid off a couple of times. And in the meantime, I was working on a business plan of my own. Like while I was laid off, I couldn't work for like a year. I was laid off. So I was trying to keep myself busy, trying to organize myself with a business plan. Got another job, got laid off again, and I like saw that it was like the universe pushing me to like I saw like the synchronicities and like, okay, I get it. Like you want me to not work for people or you want me to like pursue this, what I'm doing. And then
Mhm.
I worked with some clients on my own, doing like respite and like individual programming. And I realized that they needed some more structure and it was just more of like recreational stuff that I was doing and I was not happy. I was making all right money and I wasn't it just like didn't give me any purpose, like just babysitting people. So I had to take it to the next level and part of my business plan had a school component to it. But it was like the second phase of like a group home type of thing. And so I had to pivot. I like the big project was a little bit too big for me, and that could be even the Capricorn thing, like too big of a project or something like that. But I had to pivot quickly, and then I ended up opening up a school. Um, and so that is like taking my life into my own hands. Like that's more of an Aquarius thing, I would say, more of a grassroots organization. It's in the community, um, helping people in the community and not relying on top down, like I'm in control of my own life. I'm not in control, like I'm not controlled by an external boss or an external company or, so I think that I don't know, does that make sense with like the Pluto going in back and forth into Capricorn and Aquarius? That's what happened. That because February is when I opened the school. So
And Pluto in Aquarius, the ruler is Uranus. So it's you're doing something that's more authentic to you and living more in your authentic self, like your
yeah,
truth, and it gives you the freedom as well to do what you want to do. I just lost my job too. And like literally like after being in aviation for like since for my whole entire adult life, and but it's kind of propelling me into this new life that I've been kind of not fully committed to creating. So I'm like charging ahead with it now because I feel like I got the green light with my layoff. So but yeah, for me, like Pluto in Aquarius feels very much like this. I feel like we're transcending our idea of the tribe, like this tribal mentality, like where like in 2020, where like everyone was like trying to find their, clinging to their tribe, trying to find their soul group, and like we were all isolated while Saturn
yeah,
was in Aquarius. And so I feel like we've kind of transcended our idea of what the tribal mentality is like, where we had to, in the past, like, all of us, like in our DNA, like we've got this embedded in us, this memory of that we need our tribe to survive. And so I think that we're transcending that whole idea, so that we're not clinging to our tribes to survive, but we're just creating new ones that we can work, independently, and like be our authentic selves, but not be dependent on anyone. Like we're all being our sovereign selves, and we're doing what, our own unique thing that that's us, like it's what our soul wants to do. And so I feel like this Pluto and Uranus, I feel like we're just really being pushed into, not pushed, but guided towards like this new idea of what a tribe means, like
Yeah.
about the tribe. And so I feel like Pluto is kind of transcending that whole idea of the tribe, and we're getting to a point where it's safe to disagree, and we're not like scared to speak up. And the North Node in Aries is helping us find that courage to speak our truth, and all these Chiron wounds around, that we've all kind of been dealing with, around a lot of us we've got this fear of speaking our truth, and like finding the courage to speak our truth. And so I feel like that's what the planets are kind of mapping out, is what we are creating. All this stuff that's collapsing in the external world, this old paradigm, we're creating that from the inside. Like we're manifesting. It's not just something that we're just witnessing. Like we are creating it from the inside. That's how I see it. And so then planets are just mapping out what we are actually doing. They're not doing it. They're not making these governments collapse or any of this stuff. They're not exposing the truth. We're just seeing it because
The truth has always been there. It's just we couldn't see it.
Yeah. And so this stuff's been going on for a long time. We just didn't know. Like we're kind of waking up and seeing, we're seeing our own shadow. So
yeah. Well, and Pluto is like the god of the underworld too. He's like Hades, right?
Yeah.
So it's like going down into like and exposing some stuff perhaps, and some people are going to be are going to be more receptive to the lies than others, and that might be an aspect of what their journey is as well, right? Not being able to accept truths because they're too attached and too codependent, and their identity might be too reliant on the old paradigm, right?
Yeah. Well, it's hard for people to let go of these beliefs, but essentially what's happening with all of us on some level, it's like this regime change that's happening inside of us that's being reflected outside. And so Pluto helps us to, when we work with Pluto, we can really excavate these power themes, like these feelings of powerlessness, where we feel like we're powerless. It's just an illusion. It's like Pluto showing us where we think we're powerless, where we feel, where we're believing the illusion that we're separate, essentially. And so yeah, I feel like this it's going to be interesting when Pluto moves back into Capricorn, how that kind of plays out too.
Well, one thing that's been coming up too in the reading is like, where is your locus of control, right? Do you have an internal locus of control, or do you have an external locus of control? And I think that can be applied to the Capricorn being the external locus of control, like, and then Aquarius being like the internal locus of control. So what you allowed to control your life? Where are you powerless? Where are you feeling powerless? Where are you feeling sovereignty? And so the power is coming, the control, the locus of control, or the power is now coming back to the people with Pluto moving to Aquarius again, right?
Right.
Instead
Yeah.
of the external world controlling us, we're controlling it.
Yeah, we're creating it.
Yeah.
But I think that now that, I mean, with Jupiter in Gemini, I think that we're going to notice more, because Jupiter in Taurus is a very different feel to Gemini, and so just is very fast moving. the expansion can be very fast moving compared to in Taurus, and just lots of information being shared. And with Jupiter, I think that we are being shown essentially that what we believe, because we focus so much on exposing the truth and on other people's beliefs, and they need to see this and they need to see the truth, but they're just, the more we focus on them, the more they're not going to see it, like, because they're just reflecting that what that we're trying to do out there. And so it's about looking at our own beliefs, you know, and expanding our own beliefs. It's not about changing other people's beliefs and waiting for them to see it, because our reality is made from what we believe to be true.
Yeah,
and so
that's
what
something
I
that's
believe,
corresponding. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say that with Jupiter, you realize that everything that you think you know is only ever just a partial truth, because you're going to get another expansion and another expansion, and you get, you know, a more expanded view of the same thing. It's never ending, but we think that what we know right now is the truth. We think our truth is the truth, but all truths are true. So,
Well, there's one saying that's like, there's only one thing I know for sure, is that I know nothing at all, right? Because
yeah,
every day our truth can be different, right? So you just got to be open-minded because
totally.
the a lot is
And
not what it seems.
another theme with Jupiter, just as before we wrap this up, another thing with Jupiter is morality. That's another theme that's another thing that kind of helped us survive as tribes in the past. But we are becoming we are a global civilization now, and so we're not being guided by morality anymore. That's the old paradigm. We're being guided by consciousness. And so but this morality, it's like it's encoded in our DNA, it's in ourselves. And so that's why we're, you know, I think a lot of things are being reflected in our external world, where we're, you know, this polarity of the morals and just the belief systems in general.
Like, you mean like religions and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
ideologies and stuff?
all ideologies, yeah, that are, it's whenever you're kind of saying that one entire group is wrong, and you know, you're believing the illusion that you're separate from them, but we're all one thing. So if you are separating yourself from part of yourself as source, then you're activating the illusion of separation. And so it's just going to get louder and louder to show you that you're doing that.
Interesting.
You're kind of pitching one group of source against another. You're not seeing, you need to see the divinity in all things, right?
Yeah.
So
Very interesting.
yeah.
So in summary, Kat, what would you say the main theme or the energies that people can try to work with for the
Yeah.
solstice and the full moon in Capricorn happening on the 20th and the 21st?
I feel like it's, if you there's not one way of working with astrology, and I think that if we start by connecting with the celestial bodies that we can see, like the sun and the moon and the earth, and we connect with them and just really feel like, if you want to connect with the planets internally, I would start kind of building kind of a relationship with these planets that you can see, and start with that, and feel into, oh, you asked about the solstice, so I was just talking about astrology in general. So with the solstice, I feel like it's about, let's see, for me it's about taking divine masculine action, cardinal action, and really bringing, like, kind of breathing life into an idea, like that you like, that's something that you want to create, and actually kind of pushing forward and taking some kind of a step. That's a really good way to use this cardinal, because it's like on the world axis. And But when you take this action, it's like about really feeling anchored in your root and really connected to your 3D human life here, and not trying to manifest from lack and scarcity, like, which is what you were talking about earlier, about, you know, when you're kind of in lack and scarcity, but like really connecting with the frequency of the thing that you want. Like, imagine who the version of is of you that you want to become as you take this action, like, because you can choose who you are in any given moment, and you can step into that version now. You don't have to wait, like, you don't have to do anything. You just have to, like, connect with your future self now, and just step into that version and take some actual action towards what you want to create instead of just thinking about it. I think that's a really good way of using the solstice energy, and just really like questioning any limiting beliefs that might come up, like with this masculine and feminine. And I was talking earlier about the unbalanced masculine energies and the unbalanced feminine energies. Like, see what the south node of the moon in Libra and Venus are trying to show you about, you know, about how you feel about yourself. And also, yeah, like, it's good to journal, I think, and just kind of journal like what's triggering you, and just maybe have a look and see what's happening in the transits in relationship to your actual chart, and what's happening in the houses, because that's how you can really get to know the planets and connect with them internally, is by just seeing how you feel when the moon moves through all the houses in your zodiac, and when it activates certain aspects in your chart. And yeah, that's it really. Other than repeating a bunch of stuff I've said already, I think we all carry these unbalanced and masculine and feminine energies, all of us. And that's why we're here, to experience the illusion that we're separate from everything that we truly are. It's not like about worthiness or that we're doing something wrong if these emotions come up. So it's important to just really have like some compassion and grace and love and kindness and acceptance for these past versions of yourself that might be coming up.
Great.
So,
Amazing. Well, you had mentioned that there's going to be some other energies, like potent energies coming up, like by the end of the summer, you had mentioned. Should we meet again and kind of catch up with respects to that?
yeah, for sure. I would love that. And there is going to be a conjunction with Mars and Uranus, I believe, around about the 15th of July. And that could be really potent. So,
Eruptive.
yeah. But I think in a good way.
Oh,
So,
good.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. We need that's another theme that's been coming up too, is, you know, when things collapse, both in the external world and aspects within ourselves, it is an opportunity to build something new, right?
Yeah.
So utilizing it as like a blank, a blank canvas or something like that. So there's always opportunity in everything that doesn't work out. So that's like I try to.
Everything is happening for us, not to us. That's what the Galila Collective always say. And we ourselves are creating that change. It's not happening to us.
Yeah.
We are creating that change from the inside, and ourselves as source. There's a version of us that knows, that has the big picture of everything that we're creating. It's just our humans are just starting to get in on it now. So.
Amazing. Well, as always, this was a wonderful chat. I hope everyone out there enjoyed it just as much as I did, and I hope to see you soon, Kat. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much for having me on here.